Fresh off lifting the Europa Conference League trophy in Prague, Freddy Potts joins League One outfit Wycombe Wanderers in the summer, and it's fair to say he made quite the impact. Potts receives Wycombe Wanderers Players Player of the Season and Supporters Player of the Season awards to cap off a phenomenal loan spell with the Chairboys. The young midfielder played 43 times over the course of the 23-24 campaign, also posted 4 goal contributions as well. So he made the most tackles, the most interceptions, and the second most passes in League One this season. He missed the last game of the season through injury. However, the 20-year-old was still provided with a healthy reception at half-time in their final game of the season. He was presented to the Adams Park faithful for one final time and was met with an appreciative applause, which gave quite a good indication, I think, and as West Ham fans have believed, of the impact that Potts had this season. To get more on this, I'm delighted to be joined by the Wycombe Wanderers reporter for the Bucks Free Press, James Richings. We can't get James's camera to work, but he's here. Trust me, James, thank you very much indeed for joining me. How are you?
Not a problem at all, Jack. Not a problem at all. Thank you for inviting me on. And yeah, I think I might be saving the viewers from my ugly face that the camera's not working. So it's all good. It's all good.
Thank you for joining me. So just to start with, I wanted to sort of gauge the overall feeling from Wycombe fans about Potts this season. Obviously, those accolades that I've just listed off that he received a couple of weeks ago. Truly, how well did he perform this season at Wycombe?
He was absolutely incredible. He was a breath of fresh air, and he made his unofficial debut in front of the Wycombe faithful in Joe Jacobson's testimonial a week before the season started. It was a 0-0 draw against Cardiff, and I think he'd signed the day before. And when I spoke to him after the game, it blew my mind that he was only 19 years old. He spoke like a veteran. He was so mature in the way that he answered his questions, very, very level-headed. And he's taken that maturity off the pitch onto it, and he's been nothing short of outstanding. The way he passes the ball, his vision, his attitude has been nothing short of exceptional. And when he got injured in the FA Cup match against Bradford at the start of November, we didn't know how long he would be out for, and he ended up missing nearly 2 months of the season. It's no surprise that in the time that he was out, Wycombe went on this dreadful run of form. They went 12 without a win in the league, and Potts missed, I think, the vast majority of those games. So he's been a real cornerstone to Wycombe's success this season. And when you return to the team, you can just see the energy. You can just see the pace. You can just see that the game was very much played around him. So Freddy Potts will be hugely missed at Wycombe next season. They say you should never fall in love with a lone player, but when a lone player does so well, it's hard to not fall in love with them.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, from what you were saying there, it just seems like the heartbeat of the midfield and really got things going for Wycombe this season. Look, to be fair, he was on the bench for the Conference League final back in June. He didn't have a hell of a lot. He had a couple of appearances before he went out on loan. We've had a lot of failed loans over the last few years where we've had players go out on loan and they've got no game time whatsoever. So it's actually refreshing to hear that and to see what you're saying about how just pivotal he was to Wycombe this season.
Oh, he was hugely pivotal. Wycombe, when Wycombe weren't winning, they dropped down to as low as 19th, and there were genuine fears that they were going to be scraped into a relegation fight. But the Wycombe picked up their form. He played a big part of that, and Wycombe ended up finishing 10th, which people won't realise is the 6th highest finished ever in the club's history. And Potts played a huge part in that. The way he used to pass the ball was just outstanding. I know it's a very, very silly thing to say, but when I saw Potts play, I saw a young Cesc Fabregas in the centre of Wycombe's midfield. The way that he could pick out a pass, the reverse balls, the vision, the leadership, and of course he would have learnt that through Declan Rice. He would have modelled his game on that. So now Wycombe had a really good player on their hands, and everyone at Wycombe now will be keeping a close eye on Potts' career because he did a lot for the club both on and off.
Oh, that's good. Now, I can assure the people watching, we didn't plan this because my next question literally reads, fans have labelled him the next Declan Rice. It's difficult to tell, but, already could you see from this season whether maybe he needs another loan in the Championship or whether he could come in as a squad player in the sort of Premier League and gain experience that way?
Cool, that's a good question. It's hard because it depends on who I guess West Ham bring. It depends on who the next manager is going to be, whether or not Moy stays or if he leaves. with Rice, unless he impresses David Moyes in the summer or the new manager, I can't really see him getting into the West Ham team. So I think a loan spell would do him the world of good. Maybe at a championship side, maybe another League One side. Whatever Potts does, he needs to continue his development playing men's football, and that's the reason why he wanted to join Wycombe. He had done very well in the development team, did very well in the academy, but he wanted himself to make the next big step because there is such a huge gulf between Premier League Two football and then League One, League Two. You're playing with people who are 10 to 15 years older than you. You're not going to be with people around your same age. You're going to be dealing with different people from different experiences, from different backgrounds. And Potts wanted that. He wanted to be out of that little PL2 bubble, and he was able to get that experience at Wycombe. So I wouldn't be surprised if you were to see Freddy Potts on loan at another team next season, whether it would be at Wycombe or another League One team or a Championship side. But if he were to get into the West Ham team, he doesn't get a loan move. He has to play. He has to because he's so good.
Yeah, see, the difference and broad sort of change that even going from Premier League Two football to League One, it's still massive, as you've just mentioned there. We've had a couple of players this season that I mean we've been a little bit light on our feet in terms of squad depth this season, and we've had a couple of youth players come up and have a go. We had Divine Mubama who came up in to the first team, and he looked out of his depth. It's because he hasn't played, because he's gone from Premier League Two football up straight in up front for West Ham, and that quite clearly didn't work. But Potts has had that loan spell, and I mean it's just interesting to note how quickly did he adapt from moving from that Premier League Two football up into the heart of a midfield in League One.
Well, it took a bit of time because Wycombe didn't win their first two league games. They lost 3-0 to both at home to Exeter and then away at Lincoln. And the Exeter game was an absolute disaster. First day of the season, Wycombe were 2-0 down inside 4 minutes. I know it was awful. I mean, there was so much optimism. And then within, I think it was 15 seconds, Wycombe were 1-0 down. Then within about...
That is a proper way to start a season.
It really is. And nobody was expecting it. What made it even worse was Wycombe go 1-0 down inside 15 seconds. They go 2-0 down inside 3 minutes. And then Wycombe conceded a penalty in minute 5. So 5 minutes into the season, it was honestly jaw hit the floor. And thankfully, Exeter missed the penalties, and the third goal wasn't scored until right near the very end. And Potts was very much like, oh, wow, okay, this is like an eye-opener. This is what men's football it's like. It's not like you can have a lot of time on the ball in development football. It's not like you can take the time out to see what you can do, because the moment you get the ball in League One, you could have two people on you. Someone could smash in from behind you. Someone could leave an elbow. It's completely different, and those experiences have really helped develop Potts's game. And if he just continues doing what he does, then he will certainly have a fantastic career. And last week I was at the end of season dinner, so I was with the players and I was with all the fans and everything. And when Potts's name was read out twice, people were just singing his name. People were cheering him. The Wycombe fans really do not want him to go, but we understand he has to. And yeah, we wish him nothing but the best.
Oh, that's brilliant. I want to ask about how he was sort of utilising the midfield. Give us a bit of insight about a Wycombe, a progressive outfit, or has Potts' role just been to protect the back line? Was he doing a bit of both? What was his role predominantly throughout the season?
It was very much a box-to-box midfielder. That's just my personal opinion. So he was very good going forward, but he never really got the assists or the goals. He would be the assist to the assist, if that makes sense. But his defensive displays were fantastic. He wasn't shy of getting his shorts dirty. He would love to go in for a challenge. He was very vocal as well for someone who was 19 when he first joined, to end the season as a 20-year-old and be one of the main leaders was good to see. And what really did help Potts' development, and he even said this last week at the end of season dinner when he gave his speech, he said that the advice he was getting from players such as Gareth McCleary was pivotal to him. Because Gareth McCleary, I believe, is 36 years old, 37. Potts is 19, 20. There's 17, 18 years between the two. And McCleary is basically telling him the do's and the don'ts, and he's obviously listened, because as the season went on, he got better and better and better. And the way he used to lead in the center of the park, just screaming orders at people considerably older than him, listening to Matt Bloomfield's instructions on the touchline. He was so eager to learn. He was so eager to impress, and he got a couple of goals himself. And one of the goals was regarded as one of Wycombe's goal of the season, his volley against Charlton. It was a fantastic strike, and yeah, the way he played, he just played with his heart on his sleeve. He wanted to do his bit for the team, and it was more. In my opinion, if I had to swing to one, it'll probably be a tad bit more defensive, but only just. I would say probably 60% defensive, 40% attacking.
I mean, that's a brilliant balance to have as a midfielder. And look, I mean, Wycombe have done a lot of social media exposure throughout the season, really. You know, I've mentioned they put the old hammers emoji on things with Freddy Potts, which has got West Ham fans, you know, on it and looking and sort of relevant to the situation. And then all of the sort of, you know, the video that went round there, West Ham shared it, and, you know, what you've said here. It seems like there's been a real appreciation from Wycombe to West Ham and to Freddy Potts, obviously, for what's happened this season. And, you know, you mentioning how vocal he was, and I'm going to be honest, it sounds like Declan Rice. It really does, you know. You know, the vocal side of his game and being that leader at that such young age. To be fair, I googled and I thought he was about 22 or 23. He's only 20 years old, and I think that's a testament to what he's done at Wycombe this season. Don't you think?
Oh, very much so. And I think what helps is, as well, as it's not just about his personal development that he's obviously done on his own, because obviously a player's development is down to the player. They've got to take the onus to want to improve. But he was surrounded by some very, very good people who wanted him to succeed. Because Wycombe are such a unique team. I'm not just saying this because I report on them, but it's not one of those clubs where you get cliques. Everyone is very much a case of we're in this together because we want to achieve together. And Potts really bought into that. And I think what's really important as well is that when he picked up his injury at the start of November, and we didn't know how long he'd be out for, Matt Bloomfield would constantly say to me every time I asked him about when he'll return, he always said, we have a responsibility to look after a player that's not ours. Because that's what it is. It's a loan move. Wycombe do have a responsibility to look after a player that doesn't belong to them. So as soon as Potts was injured, he returned to West Ham for treatment, and then he returned to Wycombe once he was better. And his first game back, and I remember this vividly, his first game back after his injury layoff was against Leyton Orient, away at Leyton Orient. And I kid you not, his name was sung more times than anyone else, because he went straight into the starting lineup and he was just serenaded throughout. That's how much he meant to the Wycombe fans. And whatever he does next season, Wycombe fans will be keeping a close eye on him, that's for sure.
Oh, that's brilliant. There seems to be a real big, you know, respect between the two parties here. And, you know, it's brilliant. As I mentioned earlier, we've had all too many failed loan moves. You know, we had one with Callum Marshall, who went to West Brom this season and he didn't get a minute of game time. And it's just pointless. So when this, you know, appears every now and then, and the appreciation that, you know, you've mentioned and what we've seen on social media, I think it's been brilliant. And look, whatever he does next season, I'm sure, you know, as you mentioned, Wycombe fans will keep an eye out as well. Just one other thing I wanted to mention: Gideon Kadua joined Wycombe. Probably West Ham went, oh, Freddy Potts has done well there. We'll send Kadua there. He really impressed in the year when we won the FA Youth Cup last year, and there was quite a big spotlight on him. And he moved to Wycombe. Did he have an impact at all, James?
Well, when Wycombe signed Gideon Kadua, I was very excited. If you don't know, Jake, I'm actually an Arsenal fan, and I was actually at the game where West Ham.
You didn't have to tell me that.
I can only apologise. But I was at the game last year where West Ham smashed Arsenal 5-1, and I was sitting right behind the goal, and I just remember thinking, this kid's very good. I just remember thinking that, and then fast forward to this January, Kadua scores against Wycombe for West Ham in the EFL Trophy, and he was electric. So when Wycombe signed him, we're thinking, oh great, we're going to get a player on our hands here. It just didn't really work out. For Kadua. He didn't really play many games. He was sort of in the team, out the team, bit of here, there, and everywhere, and he never really got like a run of form under him. He did okay. He had flashes, but he never really set the lights that Freddy Potts did. But for Kadua, no doubt those minutes would be valuable to his career, because men's football is completely different to Premier League 2 football. But yeah, it wasn't the same to Freddy Potts. He just didn't really set the world alight at Wycombe.
Oh, that's a shame. But, overall, thank you very much, James, for joining me. Just that insight into Freddy Potts there from somebody that watched him week in and week out this season, because we all saw the social media exposure that he got. And I went, right, I'm going to find somebody associated to Wycombe to talk about him. So, James, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Any final thoughts on Freddy Potts?
Whoever gets him next season, you're going to have a hell of a player, and everyone at Wycombe wishes him well. He is very much loved at Adams Park.
That's brilliant. James, thank you very much for giving up your time today for joining me.
No worries. Thank you so much, Jake. Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it and subscribe to West Ham Unofficial if you're new. Until the next one, come on your lines, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.